Hey, beautiful people, it's me, Daryl. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the International Booker long list. Just to give you a heads up, tomorrow will be the shortlist announcement, so we'll find out what books make it on to the next stage. I didn't really feel like doing a post, like writing up a post, taking the pictures of like what my predictions were or like going into any real detail. So I just decided to do this quick video, although I have a feeling it won't be so quick. So I just wanted to mention, I'll talk about the books that I haven't read, then talk about the 5 books that I'm passionate about that I have read, and then also talk about the 1 book that I didn't really like. I won't really be going into any detail. I don't think there's going to be like a whole lot of depth. I'm just doing this off the cuff. But right now, these are the 3 books that I have left to read. So that means I have read 10 out of the 13. These are the 3 that I have not gotten to, so I won't really have much to say on them because I didn't read them. So Stillborn is one of them. I'm very excited about this one because a lot of people seem to be passionate about this one. So I have a feeling that it probably will be on the short list, but I'm also very, very excited to read this. And I feel like this might be one of the ones that I'd be passionate about if I had read it. So then there's also Ninth Building, which I'm about halfway into, I think, maybe a little bit more than halfway. And then there is Time Shelter that is left. So those are the 3 books that I have not completed yet. Now, as for the book, because look, on here, you know that I'm very, very honest about my opinions on books. And there is 1 book that I have read that I really don't like. And it's the only book that I've read this year. Like, I'm not just talking about International Booker, I'm talking about like all year that I haven't liked. I'm known for being opinionated, sometimes like really strict on book, like really, crushing it on books. But I surprisingly have had a very good year with reading books. And this one, I have to say I'm not a fan of. The funny thing about this though is that on Instagram, I've been seeing everyone like praising this book like crazy, but most of my Goodreads friends dislike it, like really dislike it, kind of like how I feel. So it's so strange to me how this is like an Instagram darling, it seems, but on Goodreads, it's like not a lot of people are feeling it. I love family dramas. I love family saga. That is like what I gravitate towards. I'm an only child, and I think that's part of the reason why I tend to be drawn to these type of books. So I don't know if it's high expectations, although I don't really think it's that. It's just I did not like it. I did not think it came together. I thought it was kind of preposterous, to be honest. There was a lot of things that annoyed me in this book, and I had to sort of force myself to keep going. This would have easily been a DNF if it wasn't for the fact that I was committed to reading the entire long list. If this was under any normal circumstance, I wouldn't even be talking about this book very much because I would have never completed it. Did I hate it? Hate it? Like, I don't think I hate. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to really talk much more about this though, but if anything, just go on Goodreads. I mean, not go on Goodreads, go on Instagram and you'll see like a whole bunch of people praising it. So, give it a go. And I've never been the type of person to tell people like not to read a book just because I don't like it. So I say go for it. But for me, this was definitely a big no for me and definitely my least favorite book on the long list. Now, as for the books that I'm very passionate about now, there are, 5 books that I'm really, really passionate about. The other books that I did read, it's kind of like they're okay or, I've read better. And then the one that I just showed you before that I actually really, really didn't like. But these are books that I'm really, really passionate about. And unless the 3 books that I haven't read yet somehow like manage to blow these away or whatever, these are the 5 I would be hoping to see on the short list tomorrow. So we start off with Whale. Now, this was just such a wild story. Now, this was supposed to be in a way like a satire about like South Korean history. And I may not have understood everything that it was satirizing, but it was just wild. It was wild and crazy. There are some quirks that this author has that I feel like in today's world it's kind of like, okay, maybe you don't need to like keep emphasizing that. But other than that though, this book was wild. It was great. It was very interesting. Loved it. And it was just one of the books probably out of all of this where out of all of them where it's just about great storytelling. It just has that very classic feel of great storytelling where you just want to turn the pages, you get absorbed, and you're just into it all the way to the end. The next one I'm gonna say is Mother Dead. This one, this snuck up on me. I liked it immediately, but I was kind of like after a while wondering like, well, where is this gonna go? But then, um, yeah, it had a lot of surprising elements. But this is the one that kind of unsettled me the most because if you saw my post, like my review about this book, I didn't even really review the book that much. Um, Even though the story is about like a mother stalking, I mean, a daughter stalking her mother, it reminded me of elements about in my real life having like a real life stalker and how they like surveillance you and like watch your every move, try to get in your head, try to wonder like what you're gonna do next, where you're gonna go next, and whatever. And I found that very, very unsettling. It made me so many times think about my stalker and like what that person must have been thinking. I just found it very, very creepy for that element. So I can't, it's one of these books where for me, I'm unable to separate my real life experiences with what I read in the book. But yeah, definitely this is a hot one. This is a great book. Next one I will say is The Birthday Party. I knew this was going to be my book. I just like when I read the back of it, I was just like, okay, this sounds like this has the potential to be something that I'm really into. And then when I started it, the first sentence is a bit annoying. Like it's a little over the top, but then it's the sentence structure is kind of the same all the way throughout, but the first sentence is a little bit ridiculous. But after that, I found myself absorbed. I was always absorbed. I can see why this book would be like a turnoff for some people. It takes a while to get going. The writing in a way, I wouldn't say it's like too self-indulgent, but it goes around these like roundabout ways of saying like this one thought. But it will go on and on and on and on and on and on to get to that point. And then sometimes it's like it rambles on and on and on and on. And then you get back to the first point that it was making, and you're like, oh wow, you wrote all that just to say that. But to me, I loved it. That was magical. The second half of this book really becomes very intense and really frightening. You have no idea like what's going on. It's very intense. It's very, very intense, violent, like off kilter. Yeah, so I was really into it. Very much about mood, this book. Boulder. Now, Boulder is the one that I feel like when I featured this, like so many people were replying to my story when I put this up for book mail about how great it is. Whether it was about how great this author's other book, Permafrost, which is a book that I already have, how great that was, or it was about how great this one was. I've had people talk about like she writes about relationships well, she writes about sex well, she writes about lesbianism well. She talks about like, people who don't want to have kids versus people who want to have kids. And it's such a small little package. But there's so much to unpack here. And it's one of these like kind of delightful reads in the sense of like just the power of language and how an author can convey all of those thoughts, like how much power there is in a book that's just so slim like this. Where a lot of times we praise like authors who like write these giant books that manage to keep your interest and manage to dive into themes consistently or whatever. You never get bored, you're fully invested. They're doing their own thing. Sometimes we don't praise enough like the authors who are able to do that in a very condensed way. And this was great. It was really, really great. Like quite a firecracker of a book, I would say. All right. So yeah, I definitely say check this one out. And this is one that I feel like a lot of people, probably out of all the five that I'm showing you, I feel like most people might gravitate toward. Not necessarily like if you read the back, you might not gravitate toward it, but once you get in it, I feel this is one of the books that probably the book that people would be like, oh wow, like I really got something out of this, and this like had quite the package. And the last one I'm gonna say is While We Were Dreaming, which I finished late last night. I loved this one. To me, it's between, I guess, spoiler. Well, no, I'm not gonna go there. But I love this one. This one was really, really good. I had mentioned in my stories that I feel like it's out of fashion for books that deal with hyper masculine like themes, toxic masculinity, stuff about boys and men and how they come of age and whatever is like really out of fashion these days. People tend to be like, I don't want to read that over and over again. But for me, I'll admit it. I love those types of books. That's the type of books that got me into literary fiction in the first place. I will always like have a soft spot for that. And on top of that too, I mean, okay, I may not fall into the same category as it, but I am male and, I guess in a way it could be relatable. Don't put too much into that, but it's just how I feel. So for me, this I thought was really, really good. What I love about this book is it's like you get like a bit of snapshots about what's about these four males that you read about, but it's done in a very non-linear fashion. There are some moments where you learn about certain things that you don't have a clue like what they're talking about, but then later on, like what they're referencing to comes into play. So it sort of like goes back and forth, back and forth. So it's not chronological at all, but it's always keeps your interest. You really come to care about these characters, even though sometimes they do things that you just kind of like you roll your eyes at and you just don't care. But in a way too, it really does kind of give you like a good impression of what it feels like in your youth, like how destructive you can be, how insecure, how delusional you can be, how you're into yourselves, you're into partying, you're into having a good time. You sometimes don't really think about like how like what you're doing impacts other people and things like that. I just thought this was really, really good. The thing with, I don't know what it is about like Fitzcarraldo books, but to me, I tend to like fly through them. I don't know if it has anything to do with the print, the page, the whatever, because this is a thick book, but I got through it pretty quickly. And I mean, okay, yes, I do read pretty quickly. A lot of people have mentioned that, but I just flew through this. The same way like with The Birthday Party, you just fly through it. I don't know if, and I feel like the same thing about like books like Hurricane Season that I've read and Septology and stuff like that, where something about this publisher, I tend to like just fly through the books. So yeah, this is one that I feel like everyone should pick up. If you know that you're not into like the hyper masculine and you don't care about like reading about books about boys and men and all that, then yeah, definitely don't go for this because I mean, obviously you're probably, I shouldn't say obviously, but you're probably not going to get anything out of it. But if this floats your boat, if you liked how it sounded or whatever, I would say go for it. Very, very, very interesting. Love the way that it was written. Love the non-chronological aspect of it. Anyway, that's all I got to say for now. So take care and we'll see what's on the short list. Take care. Bye.